Welcome to Travel Secrets with me, Tanya Rose, the podcast sharing wisdom for fellow travellers. Each week, I ask my guests to reveal their 6 travel secrets and the holidays and adventures that surround them. Today, my guest is the wonderful British actress, Sarah Parish. She has adorned our screens since the early 90s, probably.
Yes, I dare to say yes.
Well, when you shot to fame in that amazing Boddington's Bitter advert, which was just sensational. You've been in so many fantastic roles, from Cutting It, Bancroft, Industry, your lead role recently in Curfew.
Yes,
and
yes.
Piglets.
And Piglets, yes.
It is a joy and a delight to have you on Travel Secrets. And I want to congratulate you and your husband recently being made MBEs for your amazing charity.
Thank you.
Which is just an amazing charity. Is it the Murray Parish Charity?
Murray Parish Trust. We're a paediatric charity. We're looking after the mental health of sick children around the country. So yeah, we're really, really pleased. Very, very honoured and proud.
Well, what you've done is amazing. And you've done that whole thing at Southampton. Which is just extraordinary.
Yeah, we built them a brand new A&E. We've got them lots and lots of different equipment. An MRI scanner's just going in actually next week, which we're thrilled about. So we predominantly worked with Southampton for a long, long time. And it was our 10-year anniversary last year. So we've decided now to go nationwide. So we've been doing projects with Manchester and Bristol, and we're doing something with Gosh this year, and Evelina. So yeah, it's fantastic. We're meeting lots of new people and taking on lots of new challenges.
Well, I take my hat off to you because you work so tirelessly on that, but also you're so prolific and you're acting all the time, which is just wonderful. And travelling. So I can't wait to hear your travel secrets. But before we do that, perhaps you can just tell us a bit about yourself and how travel has impacted the person that you are today.
Well, it's funny. I didn't really get the travelling bug for quite a long time. I was born in a little town called Yeovil in the southwest, and I came from a very sort of homey background in a way. We never went anywhere. Every year we went to a sort of static caravan park in North Devon called Camp Ruda, in a place called Croyde, which is now incredibly trendy. Everyone goes to Croyde. At that time, when I was young, nobody knew anything about it. It's a great surf spot on the North Devon coast. And really, that was the only place we went. We went there every year for a week in the summer, and that's the only holiday we ever had. Occasionally, we'd go to Dartmouth if we were feeling very, very, plush, exotic. So really, travelling wasn't on the agenda for us as a family at all. My mum was a teacher, so if we wanted to travel, it had to be in not in term time anyway. Yeah. We weren't particularly well off, so we didn't really have the money to go to really posh, nice places, and it just wasn't something that we did particularly. So it wasn't really until I started doing my A-levels and mixing with different people that I started to go to different countries and experience different things. And I went through a little hippie phase, and I was going out with a particularly good-looking, long-haired hippie called Andy, and he had a motorbike. And after our A-levels, we thought we'd join this sort of traveling group of hippies. I don't know if you remember, but it was sort of like in the early 90s. There were 2 years where this sort of group of rather smelly, sort of unwashed hippies traveled around the southwest, and we thought we quite fancy that for a little bit. So we got a tent and put it on the back of his bike, and we started to travel with them. And that's where I sort of got my bug of just moving from place to place to place to place. And I've always had that sort of nomadic thing inside me. I guess that's why I became an actor. You never quite know where you're going to be. You never quite know what you're going to do. But anyway, Andy and I think we survived about 3 months, and then I desperately needed a bath. So we moved to London instead. But that was sort of, piqued my interest of meeting different people, seeing different things, wanting to maybe experience different cultures. And then I went off to drama school, and after that, that's when my travelling sort of began.
Have you done lots of filming abroad?
I have, yes. My husband and I both have filmed in America quite a lot. There was a time when a lot of stuff was obviously filmed in LA and New York. So we both filmed in LA. My husband filmed in Canada quite a lot. So we've lived in Canada for a bit. I worked in Italy a lot. Eastern Europe, there was a huge tax break in Eastern Europe. So for our sins, we spent a lot of time in Romania, Bulgaria, places like that. So yeah, we have worked abroad a lot. It's always different when you're working abroad, rather than a holiday. Yeah. You see a different side of a country, a better side in a way, I think. But now I am a seasoned traveller now.
Well, I cannot wait to hear your travel secrets. So let's get on.
Okay.
What is the number one destination that you think everyone should go to once in their lifetime?
Do you know, I thought about this a lot, and I'm going to say something that I bet you everybody said, but it's Rome, the city of Rome.
Not everybody has said Rome.
Really?
Not at Venice.
Oh, really? Have you? Have a lot of Venice. I love Venice as well. But for me, it's Rome. There is something so beautiful and romantic and artistic and creative about that city. The first time I ever went, it was for work, actually. It was the first job that I had out of drama school. And I wasn't one of those actresses that was plucked out of obscurity and popped into a Hollywood film. I'd started from the bottom up, and it really was the bottom. I was doing a TIE tour, which is theatre and education, a theatre and education tour around the whole of Sardinia, Sicily and Italy.
Oh, wow.
I know, so it was a brilliant job. Doing the musical, The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow.
But really on the cheap. Like in all these schools. So everybody in the cast, there was only 5 of us, but they all had a part. So there was one Dorothy, one Lion, one Scarecrow, one Tin Man, and I played all the other parts. So I played the good witch, the bad witch, the wizard, all the munchkins. So I was a munchkin, and then I had these sort of cardboard munchkins that I would come on stage with. And I washed all the costumes and put all the lights up.
Oh, that's
so I thought it was the best job I'd ever had I thought it was amazing. I thought I completely made it. I had to share a room because, as I said, it was on the cheap. I had to share a room with the girl who's playing Dorothy, and luckily we got on pretty well and made our way through Sardinia and Sicily and over to Reggio Calabria and up Italy. And by the time we got to Rome, we'd sort of hated each other.
Had enough.
We just had enough.
Didn't want to hear Over the Rainbow one time sung by her.
Just thought of having to share another. I was like, God, I just need a bit of space away from this lovely girl who was absolutely gorgeous, but we just spent so much time with each other. And we'd hit Rome. So I thought, I'm just going to go out on my own. And I took myself off into Rome. I didn't know where I was. I was only 21, and I just sort of wandered into Rome on my own. And I remember walking down this tiny, tiny little street with these, very, very high buildings on either side. And right at the top of one of these buildings, there was just this single clarinet playing.
Oh,
and
wow.
I looked up and you can see, they hang all the washing across from house to house, and this beautiful sound of this sort of clarinet. And I really did feel like I was in a Fellini film.
I bet you do.
And then I walked through this beautiful alley and then out into Piazza Navona. That was the first piazza that I found on my travels. And it was just the most incredible sort of wonderful introduction to Rome as a young single woman on her own, sort of finding her way around this beautiful city. Anyway, that's where I got the bug for Rome. And then, so years later, in 2017, I was cast in a show called Medici, about the Medici family, playing Lucrezia de Medici. And again, I had to live in Rome for a while. I think 5 months in 2017 and 5 months in 2018. And I was lucky enough, the person I was playing opposite was the lovely actor Julian Sands.
Oh, yeah.
Who's sadly no longer with us. And he was playing my husband. And if you want to be in Rome with anyone, you want to be there with him. Because, he's was the most sort of beautiful, classically beautiful looking man.
Was he in A Room with a View?
He in the most beautiful romantic film ever. Yeah. And he knows everything about Rome, and he knows everything about the classical romantic poets. And he's a huge fan of Keats and Shelley. And while we were over there filming, he was doing a poetry reading in the Keats Shelley Museum, which is right at the bottom of the Spanish Steps in Rome. And I remember, we went along to see him, me and some of the cast, and I remember thinking, God, I'm looking at this most beautiful man in probably the most beautiful romantic city in the world, reading from the most beautiful poetry. I didn't know whether my head was going to blow off or my clothes were going to fall off. Yeah, it was just amazing, remarkable. And then we'd sort of walk through the Villa Borghese and these beautiful gardens and talk about Medici. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful time. And it made my love affair with Rome even stronger in a way. And also being in that production, we did get to go to places that you wouldn't otherwise get to go to as a tourist. So we went to the private Medici chapel and the private Medici house, and we became part of the furniture.
Yes, absolutely. We became Romans.
We became Romans. Yes, and it was a magical, magical time, and just getting up every day, going to work to wear these incredible costumes. To talk about Renaissance art and just to be part of that was, again, sort of, made me fall in love with Rome even more.
I'm going to have to watch that again.
Yes, have a look.
I will.
It's a lovely series.
So what is your most unexpected travel experience?
My husband and I, we're very keen divers. And we both took our paddies separately before we knew each other years ago. And we've been diving all over the world ever since, the Maldives, Cayman Islands. And when we first got together, we really wanted to sort of tick off some great dive sites before we got married and have kids. So we'd done the Red Sea, we'd done the Maldives, like I said. And there is a place in Belize, about 60 miles off the coast of Belize, called the Blue Hole.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very, very famous dive site. It's always in the top 10 dive sites around the world. It was created probably, thousands of years ago, probably after the last ice age. It was caverns and caves that, as the water rose, flooded and became this incredible blue hole. I mean, it's huge. It's about 1,000 feet in circumference, 40 feet deep. You can see it from space. It's incredible. The most beautiful, beautiful dive site, full of these enormous stalactites. But it's a hard dive and it's a deep dive. But we thought we could handle it. And off we went to Belize and went off to this dive. And we were talking to the guy on the dive boat, and he was telling us all about it. And he said also, it's home to some incredible sharks. So, yeah. No, I'm all right. I'm okay with sharks. I thought I was anyway. So, you're going to see some Caribbean reef sharks, the elusive hammerhead, which we'd seen before, but at quite a distance. And, you might even see a bull shark. They're very, very dangerous sharks. You might see one, but they'll be miles away. Don't worry about it. So off we went and got to the Blue Hole. And it is the most amazing place to dive. We got in and went down, and deeper, like I said, it was the deepest dive we'd done, which in itself is quite frightening.
Yes. Yeah.
But it is mesmeric once you're down there, and it's full of the most beautiful fish. And as you're going round the hole, and you look to your right, these enormous, beautiful stalactites and caves that go on for miles. And I remember sort of, swimming and looking at these stalactites, and then sort of looking round into the hole, and there was a bull shark right there.
My goodness. So not miles away.
Not miles away at all. I could have reached out and touched it.
What did you do?
Well, I watched my gauge. I watched the oxygen just go. And we sort of swam along together. And I had that sort of thought, I'm going to die. This is it now. As we sort of looked at each other as fun, I thought, this is probably going to be it. He's close. This shark is close enough to kill me easily if it wants to. And after a while, I just got, it was quite a funny feeling. My breath became sort of much more controlled, and I started to just calm down. And I suppose it's that feeling of, look, if it's going to happen,
I can do.
It's going to happen. There's nothing I can do. I can either enjoy this incredible experience of
gliding,
with this beautiful creature, or I can panic and flap around, and then it probably will get me. So we continued to just swim around the Blue Hole together, and he stayed with me for ages and ages and ages. And it was, it sounds a bit woo-woo, but it was a sort of very spiritual experience. I remember thinking, gosh, we're tiny. We're tiny. There's no difference between this enormous bull shark and me. In a way, we're just living things that will live and die and go back to the earth, where there's no difference between us. And it was one of those moments. I remember coming up, and I remember the dive instructor going, "You okay? You okay?" I didn't want to come over. I didn't want to.
Yeah.
I was like, "No, I'm fine." I sort of felt almost elated, And
was your husband with you?
yeah, but he was miles away on the other side. So, but he saw it. They all saw it, because it's one of those things that you think, "Oh my God, I hope somebody sees this," because I know they won't believe this. Yeah, and luckily they did see it. But it was a brilliant. It did sort of take away that fear of sharks for me, and I've never been frightened since. Because I remember diving before that experience, I was always nervous. And you always see them, but they are usually kind of way away. But there's something so... I think Jaws, though it was a lovely film, probably didn't do sharks any favours.
No. Well, it's that music, isn't it?
Yeah. And the thought that they're just out to kill you. Of course, they're not quite interested in you at all, But yes, that whole fear of sharks had gone. Yeah.
Amazing.
And just being with that majestic, beautiful, hugely dangerous creature who could have taken me at any moment, it filled me with I came out feeling tiny and enormous at the same time.
And have you dived a lot since then as well?
Yes, we have done a lot of diving. Back to the Red Sea, Costa Rica. We've been all over the place. It's a great thing to do, diving.
What is your most overrated or underrated travel experience? It's a hard question.
It is. I've got a couple of underrateds.
Great.
The first one was quite recent. It does make me laugh, still makes me laugh thinking about it. I run a charity, obviously, with my husband, and within that charity, we have lots of major sponsors or big companies that support us throughout the year. And one of the companies is Norwegian Cruise Lines, which is a brilliant company, and they look after 3 different cruise lines. I think it's Norwegian Cruise Lines, Oceanic, and Regent Seven Seas. And Regent Seven Seas are the sort of grandest.
Yes, the top one.
The top one. Anyway, Regent Seven Seas had recently sponsored a fashion show that I'd done for the charity. And as a sort of gift to me and my husband, they said, "Look, we're doing an inaugural cruise of a new ship. We'd love you to fly out to Miami and do this cruise." Yes. And I thought, "Oh God, that'd be fantastic. Yeah, I'd love to do that." So it was about this. It was before Christmas last year. Not last year, the year before. Anyway, we got on the plane, got to Miami, got on the cruise, and inside our beautiful suite. I mean, if you ever want to do a cruise, Regent Seven Seas are super. I mean, it was such a beautiful ship. I've never seen anything like it. And in our gorgeous suite was a list of things that we could do once we'd got to the Bahamas. It was only a day sort of crossing from Miami. And one of them was swimming with pigs.
Oh, I've seen that.
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I love pigs. I just love pigs." So I was like, "We've got to do this. Got to do it. Yeah, it looks amazing." And the picture was of this sort of beautiful woman in a bikini in this crystal clear water, swimming around with the most adorable little piggy you've ever seen in your life. I was like, "Well, that's it. I'm in. I don't care how much it is. I'm in." So anyway, we booked the swimming with pig excursion, and we got to Nassau. I guess it must have been.
Yeah,
and got off and got on this coach with about 20 other people. And we were driven to this beach. Now, I didn't know at the time, the Bahamas there's loads of different islands in the Bahamas.
Lots of islands.
They all have swimming with pigs.
Oh, do they?
Yes.
So it's not just one island?
No. There's only one place where that picture of that woman and that pig was
crystal.
Taken. Yeah.
Clear
and it's
water.
called Pig Beach. And I think it's on Major Key, I think it's called, or somewhere like that. But it's a very particular little island. But everywhere else in the Bahamas has obviously caught on to this is a brilliant thing to do for tourists. So they've got their own pigs and their own little stretch of beach somewhere. And of course, we signed up to one of these. In fact, I was so excited. We turned up at this sort of funny little stretch of beach, which wasn't particularly very nice. And you could see some sort of industrial stuff over there and very shallow water.
Lots of mud.
No pigs anyway. I was like, this doesn't really look like the picture I saw of the lovely lady. And anyway, we were sort of given 4 sticks with apple and a bit of cheese on them. And this guy sort of very quickly comes around and goes, right, you're going to stride out into the water. I mean, by this time, there had been about 5 coach parties that turned up. So about 150 of us stride out into the water. You stand in this huge semicircle and a bell is rung. And these pigs come charging out of these cages down the beach into the water, and of course they're so excited they immediately poo. So you're basically stood in knee-high water, which is full of pig poo, and then they just go round
eating all the
just eating all the apples. And I mean, it was the most
hysterical
hysterical and underwhelming experience I've ever had in my life. I mean, it was so underwhelming. It was quite funny. And obviously all of the other people from all of the other coaches had the same picture, and we were all just stood there with these sticks of apple, with these massive pigs who obviously go out, they obviously do it about 4 times a day, just get there. So that is
very, very funny.
Yeah, disastrous. So if you are going to the Bahamas, find the right pig beach.
Yes.
There's hundreds of pig beaches.
But find the one with the photograph of the glamorous woman and the turquoise water.
And it is there, because when I got back to the boat, I went, oh my God, that can't be it, surely. And it is just this one little island where evidently pigs were dry. It must have been either a shipwreck or something years and years and years ago. The pigs bred, and they do live there, and they are wild. These pigs were
not.
No.
Oh, that's brilliant.
So that's
a really brilliant one.
I know, that was incredibly underwhelming.
Fantastic. What was your other one?
My other one, which I feel unfair saying it, because it is actually a beautiful city, I was saying earlier, my husband and I have worked abroad a lot. And he worked in Canada a lot. He's done a lot of American shows, and they're mostly filmed in Toronto or Vancouver. And this particular show was filming in Vancouver, and we just had Nellie, our daughter, and she was only young. So I thought, I won't stay at home. I'll go and live with Jim in Vancouver and be his set bitch. And, be at home with the baby, and it'll be fantastic, and I'll love it, and it'll be great. Anyway, so he was filming from, I think it was November through to March in Vancouver.
Oh, that's chilly.
It's really chilly. And also, Vancouver, if you're going up to the mountains, you get all the lovely snow. But by the time Vancouver comes, it's just rain. So it rained every single day from November through to March. And I can't ski, so I couldn't go up the mountains. I don't like sushi, and it's full of the most incredible sushi restaurants. And I found out, in no uncertain terms, that I'm not a set bitch.
You can't sit there.
I just couldn't do it. It was the most miserable time. And I felt so awful because everyone was saying, oh, you'll love Vancouver. It's fantastic.
I'm sure in the summer it's probably beautiful.
It's a beautiful place. And we did, on the upside of that, we did take a little vacation to Vancouver Island.
Yes.
Which was, on the unexpected side, one of the most beautiful places I've ever been to. And we ended up in a gorgeous town called Tofino. And there was an amazing hotel that we stayed in called the Wickaninnish Inn. And it's right on a beautiful beach in Tofino, right on a bluff. Has this beautiful sort of circular restaurant with all these windows that you can look out into the ocean. So that was, a saving grace in what was otherwise a very...
Did you leave early, or did you stay the whole time?
I stayed the whole time.
Never again.
I never do it again. I'm only going back to Vancouver in the summer.
In the summer.
Yeah.
I'm never going to be a set bit.
And I'll never be a set bitch. Yeah.
Let's go on to food and drink. Food and drink is so important as part of travel. We all eat, we all drink, we love it. What do you like eating? Where do you like eating? Where's the best meal you've had, or where do you go to regularly? Let's just talk about food and drink and travel.
Food and drink. Do you know the best meal I had? It's funny. Sometimes it's not about where it is or the quality of food. It's about where you've been and why you needed that food so much, isn't it? I think.
And who you're with.
And we, my husband and I, when our first daughter passed away, we didn't really know what to do in the aftermath of that. And we decided to go. It wasn't a holiday as such. We decided to go and work in a couple of orphanages in Cambodia and Vietnam. And we went with this holiday company called Hands Up Holidays, who are fantastic. If you ever feel that you want to go on holiday, but you want to give back at the same time.
That's really lovely to know.
They're brilliant, and they have places all over the world that you can go and you can help build houses, or you can work in orphanages, or you can teach, or you can garden. And at that time in our lives, we didn't feel that we wanted to go to the Seychelles and just sit on a beach and grieve. We felt
we wanted to actually
do something, yeah, and be around children. So they did this fantastic package where you should go to Cambodia and work in an orphanage, and then go and then see the whole of Cambodia, and then do the same in Vietnam. So we'd done Cambodia, and we'd worked in this incredible orphanage, and the children were incredibly well looked after, and they were all lovely, and we had the most magnificent time. And then when we went off to Vietnam, we thought we were going to have the same experience, but we were put in a very different orphanage in Hanoi, which was mostly full of children who had been affected by Agent Orange. And Agent Orange, which was this awful sort of herbicide that the US Army had used on the Viet Cong during the war. And they sprayed, over 19 million gallons all over the south of Vietnam to starve the Viet Cong out, basically, or certainly get rid of so they could see them and starve them. Anyway, the upshot of that was the generations after, when people were having babies, were horribly affected. They were horrible birth defects, terrible neurological problems, really, really sick children. And this particular orphanage that we were working in was full of these children. And it was in stark contrast to the place that we'd been to in Cambodia. And it was incredibly depressing and really upsetting. And there wasn't really anything you could do with the children because they were so poorly. So we were working in the garden. They grew their own produce for the kids, and we worked in the gardens. And it was hot and exhausting and upsetting and depressing. And our next stop after Hanoi was Hội An, which is on the coast of Vietnam. And it's completely different from Hanoi. It's absolutely beautiful. It's a beautiful place to go to. It's got a lovely coastline. It's a gorgeous little city, I suppose. And they have the most incredible night market with all of this street food, which was the best food I had ever tasted in my life. And they light up the whole of this night market, and they with lanterns, paper lanterns everywhere, colourful. And the paper lanterns are all down the canal as well. And it's sort of, it's fairy tale like. It's so beautiful. And we'd come away from this awful experience to this sort of beautiful, gorgeous, peaceful place with all these amazing stalls. And there was, and we were starving. We sort of got off a plane, gone straight there, and we were starving. And I ordered a dish. I think it's called khao lao. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's called khao lao. And it's basically just a very simple Vietnamese noodle dish. It's udon noodles with a barbecued pork and croutons and raw green veg on top. It's very, very simple, but it's absolutely delicious. And it means, khao lao means high story, because it was a meal that was given to the richer Vietnamese, and they would go of the highest. They would be in the highest part of the restaurant, the nicest part, away from the cockroaches and everything. And it is the most. It is a gorgeous meal anyway. But I think
because of the situation,
it tasted so good and so fresh and so incredible. I remember Jim and I just looking at each other going, this is the best food we've ever had. How can this possibly be the best food? It's basically just noodles and pork, but it was absolutely delicious. And I can still remember the taste of it and the feel of it, and that feel of being away from that horrible situation and in this beautiful place, but you're feeling so lucky, I suppose. So lucky to be alive.
And it sounds like a beautiful place as well.
It's amazing. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. And the night market is very famous in Hội An, and it's just a beautiful place to go. Vietnam back then, I suppose it was in 2009, it was very different than it is now. It wasn't westernized at all. There were no McDonald's and no Starbucks. I think it is slightly different now. Yeah. But It was an incredible place.
How
a
wonderful.
beautiful place to go, yeah.
And what about food normally here? Do you have favourite restaurants in London you go to, or the countryside where you live, or do you just go to the newest, hottest places, or what's your take on that?
Really, I love the old favourites, Sheiky's. You know, I love fish. So we were at Sheiky's last night, went to the theatre last night, went to Sheiky's, and it's always lovely and we know everyone there. And
It's the best before the
it's just
theatre, isn't
great.
it?
Yeah, and they really look after you, right? So I do love Sheiky's. We have a great friend who still lives in London who, if we want to go somewhere new, she'll take us. She is. So, but I'm a big fan of the old ones. I love the Ivy. I love Sheiky's.
I'm a great fan of Jeremy King.
Oh yeah,
And, you know, so his new restaurant, The Park, is very good because, you know, he had the Wolsey, he had Sheiky's, he had the Ivy, he had all of those. But The Park on the top of Queensgate,
yeah.
which is like a diner, really, but it's really great.
Oh, I'll have a look.
Yeah. It's not trendy, but it's really nice.
Yeah, no.
And you want anything on the menu, which is a good sign of a restaurant for me. Very simple, but very
Yes,
delicious.
that's for me as well. I'm not so much into trendy, but I just like good food.
Yeah. Veal escalope.
Yeah.
Or,
Oh, lovely.
yeah.
Yeah.
Steak, fish.
Good.
What is your best insider travel secret?
It's about motorhoming.
Oh, really?
No, my husband Jim and I, we had green cards for a long time, and spent a long time in America. And you don't always sort of want to be in New York and LA. You know, I wanted to see a bit more of America. But more often than not, we couldn't afford to go from hotel to hotel to hotel. So there were 3 particular holidays that we had that were some of the best times we've ever had. And they were all in motorhomes. So we'd fly over to Boston, for example, hire a motorhome, and then drive up the coast, go to New Hampshire, upstate New York. We went to Maine, we went to Provincetown, all of those places. And then we'd go all the way down and we'd go to Florida and we'd go to the Keys. But all of these holidays, there was something really lovely if you can't afford to stay in lovely hotels, just to get a motorhome, because you're free. Yeah. You're completely free. And you go, well, actually, tomorrow I think I fancy going over there, or we'll go and do that today. And everything you own is in this funny little, motorhome. Yeah. But you can just pop from place to place. And there was something really freeing about that. And Nell was of an age where she was young enough and small enough to enjoy a motorhome holiday. And it was sort of like playing house for her in a way. Yeah, everything was in this funny little space and we could just sort of take it wherever we wanted to go.
And actually, America's a great place to go driving.
It is.
Because those great big open roads, and you see, middle America is so different from West and East Coast, isn't it? So,
it is.
But that's a really, really good tip.
It is. It's a great, if you haven't quite got the money, like I say, to stay in lovely places, I think sometimes a motorhome is just as good. You wake up in the morning, you open your funny little curtains and there is, we went to New Hampshire in the fall. And I mean, the colours,
so gorgeous,
so beautiful. And you wake up and you go, this is fantastic. I'm right in the middle of nature. It's not really costing us anything. And, you brew up a little cup of tea and
fantastic.
It was great. So my top tip, I suppose, is if you're not flush, but you do want to see, travel, get a motorhome. Yeah. Anywhere in the world, get a motorhome.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Very good tip. Excellent tip. Excellent. Let's go on to your most poignant travel tip or adventure. I mean, all the stories you've told me are quite poignant anyway, but is there one that stands out to you that you haven't told us?
I think there is, yeah. And there was a Christmas in 2021. We always stay at home for Christmas. We're real, everyone comes to us. Yeah. We love entertaining. That's what we do at Christmas. Yeah. We have a house full. And I remember in 2021, we decided that we were going to go away for Christmas. And I was quite upset about it.
I know, I love Christmas.
I do. And so does Nell. Yeah, she's at that age where she didn't think Santa was going to come. And there's just something.
He doesn't know where I am.
I know, he's never going to find me. So we had to make up this enormous lie about, of course, he'll find you. We'll send him a text. Anyway, we decided that we were going to go to Costa Rica for Christmas because we'd always wanted to go. But I did take a lot of persuading. But eventually the decision was made and we went to Costa Rica. And Christmas Day was looming and we were up in Tamarindo, I think it's called, which is the west coast of on the Pacific side, and on Christmas Day we were like, what are we going to do on Christmas Day? You know, what on earth are we going to do? So Jim had hired a boat and a skipper to take us up the coast. To have a day on the boat. Basically, I had diving stuff because Noel could dive by then, and picnic and everything. But I was still, you know, very. I was just felt. I woke up feeling blue on.
Yeah, this is not Christmas.
Not Christmas. Anyway, we got on the boat and started our sort of Christmas Day. And as the day went on, it was almost as if there ever was a God, he'd sort of gone. You know, don't worry, I'm going to make this day the best day of your life. And as we sort of went up the coast, you know, first of all, we saw all these amazing turtles that suddenly appeared. And then we were having our picnic, the boat had sort of moored, having our picnic. And there were thousands of spinner dolphins. Have you seen spinner dolphins?
What is the difference between a dolphin and a spinner dolphin?
So a spinner dolphin, they travel in huge pods, hundreds and hundreds of them together. And suddenly they'll be upon you and they leap out of the sea and spin. So you'll just look at one and then another one and then another one. And it was all magical.
Like they were dancing.
Yes, it was like a sort of somebody had put on this sort of theatrical nature extravaganza just for us on Christmas Day. So that happened and that was amazing. Even the skipper was like, wow,
I've never seen that before.
Yeah. And then we did a dive and the dive was fantastic and we saw all these incredible sharks and wonderful, you know, underwater life. And then we ate this beautiful picnic and everything about it was insanely perfect and beautiful. And then on the way back, I remember sitting on the front of the boat and looking out, and Costa Rica is known for its incredible sunsets anyway. The most beautiful sunsets. And the sun was setting on land, the sun was setting. And then it must have been raining over there, but we didn't see the rain. And suddenly the most incredible rainbow just sort of shot up through the sunset.
Oh.
And I remember we were all just going, this is beautiful. This is insane. Yeah, I'd never felt so content and happy and
at one
with nature. Yeah. And I remember saying to Jim, we're never, ever staying at home at Christmas again. We've never gone back. We've never gone on holiday again at Christmas.
And actually, it would not perhaps be quite as special.
We'll never get that again. Yeah, we'll never get that experience again. But we were just like, God, if you could have a Christmas that wasn't at home.
Absolutely extraordinary.
It was just beautiful. It was beautiful.
I mean, Costa Rica is really incredible.
It is. And I mean, later on in the holiday, we went further down the coast to a place called Nosara and stayed at a beautiful hotel called Legata Lodge, which is a sort of eco hotel. It's not particularly glamorous to look at, but it's beautiful. And the views are absolutely stunning of these wonderful sort of black sand beaches really on the Pacific and then the rainforest. And it's an incredible place, one of the last places where you can go and still feel safe but be in the middle of nature.
I've never been to Costa Rica, but we have some clients through leading hotels of the world called Nosara Resorts.
Yeah.
And they have on the beach and in the rainforest.
Oh, do they?
And apparently they're absolutely exquisite.
Yeah.
So that's really...
Oh, you've got to go.
Yeah.
You've got to go. It's just, there's something quite extraordinary about it. I mean, Nicaragua, I think, is above, which is supposed to be even more beautiful, but I don't...
Not quite as safe.
Yeah, I don't think you get insured.
Costa Rica is. No, I don't think my husband would definitely go to Nicaragua, but I think I might get him to Costa Rica if you went in business class.
Yeah.
That's the only way we would go.
Oh, you'd love it. You'd love it. It's fabulous.
So finally, I asked you to bring a photograph that sums up travel for you or has real meaning. Can you talk us through that photograph and tell us why?
Quite a funny photograph. I was looking through, it's funny when you ask me for a photograph, because you sort of look through all of your...
You've got so many.
There's so many beautiful pictures of gorgeous sunsets and lovely beaches and palm trees. And then I came to this photograph of Jim, myself, and our daughter Nellie in a motorhome park, sat round as campfire. And we do look like pure white trash.
Oh.
But it just made me hoot with laughter.
That's
because I just sort of thought that to me is holiday. It's who you're with and the fun you have and that our whole life in that little van. And I just remember sort of sitting around that fire and us just having such a lovely time. And And that reminded me of holidays, of travel, there was something, going right back to when I started my love of traveling on the back of that motorbike, just sort of taking my home from place to place, then going into acting, going from place to place. And the motorhome probably sums up that same feeling of being a bit of a hobo,
And also caravanning when you were younger.
Yes, there's obviously something in me that just lacks a motorhome.
Oh, I think that's wonderful. And it's such a fantastic photograph. It's wonderful. Thank you so much for bringing that in and summing that up and your thoughts on travel. What is next for Sarah Parish and where are you going next?
Gosh, I don't know. I mean, we haven't got anything in the diary, unfortunately. That's the thing about acting. You can't really book anything till the last minute.
You don't know when you're doing what.
But there are so many places that I want to go to. I think probably top of the list would be Japan.
Yes.
And I don't really know why. I suppose it's the contrast of that sort of ancient tradition and the shiny new Tokyo. It's such a contrast, isn't it?
It is. And the food's amazing. We've got a great hotel in Japan, in Tokyo. So we're at the Peninsula now in London, in the Napier Railton room. But the Tokyo Peninsula has been there for a long time and it is absolutely beautiful.
Is it?
Really, really lovely. So if you go, let me know and I'll sort you out there and then give you some advice on the little ryokans, that you can go to outside. And actually when Mark Strong was on, he goes skiing in Japan.
Does he?
Yeah. I didn't even know that was really a big thing. I know
there's everything there.
Yeah,
it has
really
everything. And I think, and also being so far away from the West. Going to somewhere which really does challenge you and challenges every sense that you have, I think there's something quite exciting about that.
And what about work-wise? What have you got coming up?
So I've got another series of Piglets coming up.
Fantastic. Wonderful.
That starts in April. And then straight after that, there's series 2 and 3 back-to-back of Geek Girl. So I'll be working up until November on that. So I'm going to make the most of this next few months.
Absolutely. Well, you must let me know where you want to go.
Yes.
And if it's not in the next 2 months after that, we'll talk about that off camera. But I'd love to send you to some fantastic places.
Oh, I'd love to.
And it's been such a joy and delight to hear your travel secrets and go around the world with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thanks for having me.